Since I grew up and lived in South Africa for 9 years, I decided to do my project on Africa. I took a trip up to the Field Museum to study the history, culture, and environment of Africa all throughout the exhibit. The entry gateway to Africa is considered Senegal. Senegal is one of the closest points between Africa and the Americas. Because of its location on the Atlantic Ocean, Senegal has become a major point of departure from Africa to other continents around the world. The continent of Africa covers nearly 12 million square miles. How big is that? Well, that land could occupy China, India, Europe, Argentina, New Zealand, and the continental United States with room to spare. With Africa being such a large continent, that entails a large and diverse group of languages. The continent of Africa has more than 800 different languages and regional dialects. English and Arabic are the top two languages spoken throughout Africa. Africa is home to the world's largest desert. The Sahara covers more than one-third of the whole continent. Scientists believe the Sahara is constantly shrinking and growing. They believe this because of the water and grasslands growing around it. With the savanna being so large, there are so few oases available. Many travelers may go many days without reaching them. This map shows just how scarce these oases are. Oases make trade possible between the ports of North Africa and the savanna markets. With Africa being covered by so much grasslands, there are three different types. First, there is a fire-clear bush that stimulates new growth after burning fire. Next is the savannas that's there to provide nutrients and grass for the animals to feed on. And finally, the thick savanna is there to suck up all moisture and supply the animals with drinking water. The carvings on an elephant tusk told a story and taught lessons to the tribe. In today's world, elephant tusks are a prized possession. In the last 3 years, over 100,000 elephants have been killed for their tusks. A big part of African history is its art and crafts that they provided the world. Pictured above is an elephant tusk, a headdress that was once worn by the chief of the royal guard made out of beads and cotton cloth, and a buffalo horn. Mining has always been a big part of Africa. West African miners once found gold by looking for rust-colored and blue-black earth. In today's world, researchers believe Africa holds more than 50% of the world's gold and 38% of its reserves. With all the grassland in the world, the Great Savannas support the most wildlife, with hundreds of species coming from tall giraffes to tiny dikes. These animals feed on the savanna plants. Other animals such as lions, hyenas, and other predators feed upon these animals. Giraffes are a large part of African wildlife. The giraffe is the tallest mammal in the world, with each eye being the size of a ping pong ball. Giraffes are herbivores, so they only eat plants. The hippopotamus is known as the third largest living animal on the world. Hippos may seem all cute and cuddly, but in reality, they are killing machines that kill about 3,000 animals a year. A male hippopotamus can grow up to 9,000 pounds in weight. The rhino has been roaming the land of Africa for millions of years. With a lifespan of up to 40 years and weighing over 2 tons, these animals are a force in the wild. Poaching is a big problem today in African wildlife. Poachers kill hundreds of rhinos each year just for their horns. In the 1960s, there were about 65 black rhinos that roamed Africa, By the 1990s, less than 4,000 remained. The dung beetles are the long-lost savior of the savanna. Dung beetles are there to keep the savanna clean. Without them, it would be a mess. When the animals produce waste, the dung beetles go to work. The dung beetles take the waste, roll them into smaller balls, and push them into the ground. A large part of African history was slave trade. For over 400 years, millions of women, men, and children were torn from their homes and sent across the ocean, forced to work as slave laborers to build new nations of America. Auctions across the Americas sold more than 10 million slaves to become slave workers. Europe was also a big part in slave trade. They took more than 20 million slaves from their families from 1444 to 1870. A main leader from Africa was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela fought the fight against racism and apartheid. He spent more than 27 years behind bars for his fight against it. In 1993, Mandela was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. All in all, Africa continues to push the world to its limits. Home to over 1 billion people, Africa has supplied us with a beautiful culture, animals, and most importantly, an environment you cannot find anywhere else.